Hello tanks and tankettes, and welcome to a view replay and something low tier, something that I haven't actually showed on the channel before, in fact, in all my years of covering World of Tanks. It's the A-20. Now this has been around in-game for a while, and these days I think it's probably in as good a place as it's ever been, because once upon a time, well, this was one of those low tier tanks that you more or less just avoided because you could avoid it, and if you didn't, well, you were stuck with what was once upon a time scout matchmaking, with a tank that really wasn't suited for it. Now it is fast, it goes up to 72 kilometers an hour, but it did not handle that speed well. It bled the speed very, very easily. It didn't turn well. And I don't know if that's still true. I don't know if it still does bleed speed in the same way, but it is still fast. And of course these days with the better matchmaking, well, the fact that your gun isn't that good, although not terrible for its tier, it doesn't matter so much these days. It can cope a little bit better. Now this is a tier 5 game, obviously it could be worse and it could be tier 6, but it's not too bad matchmaking wise. Most of each team is in fact tier 4, so his gun can handle it. He does have some difficulties though. I should say this is Jomla, who's in Circ 2, as you can see, and I can't remember the last time I featured a Circ member replay, but anyway. But yeah, he does have one particular difficulty which you will note. If you look up in the top left hand corner, you'll see in brackets, well, that's quite a decent FPS, that's the recording FPS, but then you'll notice the number out of brackets, that's the FPS that Jomla was playing at. If I had to guess, he's playing World of Tanks on a PC, and when he does play it, it looks nothing like this. So, considering that he's playing at single-digit FPS for most of this, I'm going to say that he's going to acquit himself rather well, but it does also lead to some difficulties. And if you notice the camera acting a bit weird, or him having a little difficulty controlling his tank at times, the fact that he's having to do things at less than 10 FPS is probably why. So he makes the aggressive move, goes for this Hetzer, takes a hit in the process, and frankly I think that was a bit too risky under the circumstances. It was an isolated tank destroyer, but it's a Hetzer, and it could have really hurt. Fortunately for him though, it was the 75mm rather than the derp gun. I think because he saw it wasn't the derp gun, that's why he went for it, but he did still take the hit. He also got to finish off that KV-1S with a shot into the side armour, and the pen on the AP, you know, I've said this gun's not brilliant, but it's not terrible. It's 75 average pen and 55 average damage. So that puts it a bit better in terms of pen than the German 5cm gun, but I think the damage is a little bit worse. Then, unfortunately, well, he takes a hit from artillery, and that's another big chunk of health gone, so he's now down to not a lot of hit points indeed, and that's going to be him for the rest of this game, is having to cope with being on 54 hit points and at 5 FPS currently, and having to do, you know, chip away with 55 damage per shot, so it's not like you can go around one-shotting things even though you've got low health. So we're only like 4 and a bit minutes in, most of each team is already dead. It's been a bit of a massacre on both sides, and although the enemy team does at the moment look like maybe they have a slight upper hand, it's not an unwinnable situation. Jomla is going to have to be extraordinarily careful though, because there are plenty of things around that can just completely wipe him out. So he goes hunting for artillery, he's got the speed to do it, and he's found the Grilla, but he's also found the Marder 30AT, who can definitely kill him with no problems whatsoever. He can easily punch through the A-20's armour. So let's just leave that alone for now, and well, there is one other artillery he can go for, so that's what he's going to do. I think the other arty actually took a pot shot at him there. That must have been the tier 4 German, and it does have a rather quick reload, but hopefully it won't be quick enough, having arrived just in time to see him fire his gun, to get a reload to take out Jomla, which he certainly could. Now, Jomla actually bounced a couple of shells there. I think he bounced his first 2 shots, and that just goes to show that this gun, you know, it's not that good. He was relying on auto-aim, however, and I imagine if you're playing with FPS consistently that bad, you know, you could get used to it, but it's still going to present difficulties. Using auto-aim is going to be a necessity, essentially. So he's repositioned to come back and maybe try and sneak up on the grill, and actually finds the Marder 38T a one-shot. So that's another kill, 5 kills now. And if you can get that griller, well, that will be quite nice too. But it's entirely possible the griller has moved. You know, if the griller was just sat around where they were last spotted, that would be a bit of a mistake on their part. So instead of just popping out forwards, he actually drives round and tries to pop out from an unexpected direction, just in case the griller's still there. But no, they're not. So on towards the cap, where we know something is in the cap. It's a toss-up. It could either be the Skoda, the griller, or an as-yet unspotted T-80. Of his teammates, all that's left is the M41, so we'll see. They might or might not be of any use. So it's the griller, and he actually gets a fire, so it only takes 2 shots to put him down. That's another kill. That's the top gun, which is quite nice. And hell, if he manages to somehow get 2 more kills, it would theoretically be a Radley Walters, but of course you cannot actually get that at tier 4. I think it's tier 5 and above you have to be to get medals like the Radley Walters and the Pools medal. So there's the Skoda. We know how much health he has, and the bad news is that's at least 2 or 3 shots. And yeah, he does not want to hang around in front of that gun, so he immediately just runs away and repositions. And then about 20 seconds later, runs into the T-80, and this is the first time anyone spotted the T-80. Now the T-80 could theoretically have the same gun that Dion was using, but fortunately he is instead using the rather terrible 37mm autoloader, and the only thing that's good for is very, very lightly armoured tanks and you know, things like artillery and tank destroyers. So Jomla's armour is in fact enough to resist the few shots that do land, because the T-80 didn't land a lot of shots, in fact. So yeah, that player also, I don't know, playing on a laptop, struggling with bad FPS, maybe just a new player, who knows. But either way, Diomla could have been in trouble there, but fortunately wasn't. So that's the 7th kill. And now it's just that rather low health Skoda. There is some bad news, however. He has used up his last APCR rounds against the T-80, and I don't think he meant to. I think it was just in the heat of the moment he kept firing what he had to hand, and his regular AP would have been enough. So now he's got potentially only his regular AP to use against the T-24. I think he could pen that Skoda T-24 with the regular AP. Certainly with the side and rear armour he could, but frontally he might struggle a bit more. So he's withdrawn all the way to this point, pretty much where he killed that tier 4 German arty, and I think his idea is that he will use the bush cover here to hopefully set up an ambush, but it relies on the Skoda coming all the way around here to chase him. And that's going to turn out to be a forlorn hope. We're going to jump nearly a minute here, and basically, as you can see, nothing happens. So the idea that the Skoda was going to chase after him, I mean, obviously he was spotted by the T-80. It's not completely a bad plan, but I think he just waited too long, basically, because we are now in the final 2 minutes almost of this game. Now somehow the M41 was not found by the Skoda. Not quite sure how. I think the Skoda just managed to not spot them. I guess the M41 was hiding sufficiently well to avoid it. But we don't know exactly where he is up until this point, because his radio range wasn't good enough. So the M41 was near the cap, there's the Skoda, and we're going to have a bit of an anticlimactic end here, because in fact it's the M41 who shotguns the Skoda and gets that final kill. So now 8 kills, but nonetheless, despite that anticlimactic ending, this was a really good result for an A-20, I think. It was an ace tanker, as you can see, Pascucci's for killing the 2 artillery, high caliber, and a top gun with 1480 damage, with that 55 average damage gun, I bet he had to fire a fair few shots to do that. He basically outpaced everybody on either team apart from the KV-1, who had pretty good matchmaking to work with. There we go, 38 shots fired, 33 hits, 25 pens. So he had to work quite hard for that result, and considering the handicap with that very low FPS, and considering that the A-20, even these days, I don't think is a particularly good low-tier tank. You know, the speed does make up for some sins, and the Panzer III is the same. It's very, very fast and doesn't have a particularly good gun, but I think it actually has better premium ammo in comparison. Yeah, it's not great, but to get that kind of result out of a not great tank, considering the single-digit FPS, I think that was actually a little bit impressive. So, hopefully you enjoyed this low-tier gameplay, and if you did, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can sub to my channel if you haven't already, and, as always, stay tuned for more.